Hello and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Well, Patel groups have called for a bandh in Gujarat today to protest police action of their quota stir turned violent yesterday. We'll get you all the updates on that big story. Also in the top international focus, a big setback for Brazilian president as the lower house lawmakers have authorized Dilma Rousseff's impeachment. We'll get you all the details on that as well. Let us begin with the headlines. Nearly 80% polling registered in West Bengal in second phase of polling for 56 seats. Polling largely peaceful, says Election Commission. Campaigning picks pace for third phase. Patel quota stir turns violent in Gujarat. Curfew imposed in Mehsana. Home Minister speaks to the Chief Minister. State bandh call to protest police action. External Affairs Minister reaches Moscow in second leg of the two-nation tour after Iran. Sushma Swaraj meets Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, gets assurance that country can be a reliable partner for India's energy needs. 246 people killed and more than 2,500 injured in massive quake in Ecuador. 7.8 magnitude quake flattens buildings. Rescuers using tractors and bare hands to look for survivors. And Brazil's lawmakers authorize impeachment proceedings against President Dilma Rousseff, pushing the country into a political crisis. Well, we begin our bulletin with all the election-related news in our special segment, Verdict 2016. Well, the second phase of polling for 56 constituencies in West Bengal concluded on Sunday evening. The voter turnout was close to 80%. Now, barring a sporadic incidents, the voting was largely peaceful. Here are all the details.
Nearly 80% voting recorded in the second phase of polls in 56 constituencies, mostly in the northern part of West Bengal.
Up till 6 p.m., the polling time was fixed in 49 number of constituencies, and we were informed that the polling went on beyond 6 p.m. in some of the polling stations, and where the tokens or slips have been issued.
The Election Commission said that polling was by and large peaceful, barring a few clashes between workers of rival political parties. The EC said the issues largely were related to EVM malfunctioning.
Polling process by and large was peaceful. Today, there were few incidents of clashes near the polling stations were reported. Immediate and prompt action was taken by the police force which was deployed there in big number.
वोट देने से तो बहुत सारे इश्यूज तो बढ़ना चाहिए, जो जॉब के क्राइटेरिया है वो सब बढ़ना चाहिए. अगर कॉलेज खत्म करके हम जॉब की तरफ जाए तो जॉब मिल जाए, ज्यादा घूमना नहीं पड़े, ये सब तो चाहिए हम सब लोगों को ना. और वुमेन सिक्योरिटी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है.
In the run-up to the second phase of polling, authorities executed 15,623 non-bailable warrants to keep troublemakers under check. Similarly, over 5,000 people were kept under watch to ensure they did not influence voters.
Number of candidates in fray in these 56 constituencies are 383. 383 number of candidates were in fray, of which 350 are male candidates, and female candidates number is 33.
The voting percentage, however, did not match up to previous two elections in the 56 constituencies.
In 2011 assembly elections, the poll percentage for these 56 constituencies, final poll percentage after reconciliation, was 86.51%. In 2014, the final reconciled figure, final voter turnout in parliament election in these 56 constituencies was 82.70.
62 constituencies will go to polls in the third phase of elections to be held on April 21st. With inputs from Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the BJP has accused the chief election officer of West Bengal of acting in a partisan manner. They have sought his removal by the Election Commission. Now, a 4-member BJP delegation comprising Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Member of Parliament Bhupendra Yadav, Party National Secretary Shrikant Sharma and Om Pathak met the election commissioners on Sunday in Delhi, and they submitted a memorandum in this regard. They also made a couple of other demands. Now, the party has accused the TMC of a gross and audacious violation of constitutional provisions, electoral laws and directions of the Election Commission.
केंद्रीय चुनाव आयोग ने पिछले दिनों हमारे दिए गए ज्ञापन पर कुछ कदम उठाए हैं, लेकिन आज हमने विशेष रूप से मांग करी है कि पश्चिम बंगाल के जो राज्य के जो चुनाव आयुक्त हैं, वहां के जो राज्य सरकार के जो चुनाव आयुक्त हैं, उनको बदला जाए। हमने ये भी मांग करी है कि वीरभूमि में जो 9 विधानसभाएं हैं, उनका पुनर्निर्वाचन किया जाए। और जिस प्रकार से मीडिया में तथ्य आए हैं कि केंद्रीय चुनाव आयोग के दिशा निर्देश के बावजूद भी जो लोग हाउस अरेस्ट किए गए थे, वो लोग घूमते हुए दिखाई दिए हैं, उन सभी विषयों पर केंद्रीय चुनाव आयोग सख्ती से कार्रवाई करे।
And the war of words between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee continues. Now, during a rally in Krishnanagar on Sunday, Prime Minister Modi said that by attacking the Election Commission, the TMC has conceded defeat. Meanwhile, the TMC has replied to the EC's notice through the Chief Secretary. The PM had questioned the reply by the Chief Secretary, saying that the Election Commission has addressed the notice to her as the Chief of the TMC and not the Chief Minister. The TMC retorted, saying that the Prime Minister got his facts wrong.
ममता जी और उनके दल ने पराजय स्वीकार कर लिया है और इसलिए अब वो राजनीतिक दलों से लड़ाई नहीं लड़ रही है, वे अब इलेक्शन कमीशन से लड़ाई लड़ रही है। अरे दीदी, ये इलेक्शन कमीशन एक स्वतंत्र संस्था है। पूरे विश्व में भारत के इलेक्शन कमीशन की एक प्रतिष्ठा है और जैसे खेल में हर खिलाड़ी एम्पायर का सम्मान करता है, एम्पायर का आदर करता है, चुनाव के मैदान में भी हम सभी राजनीतिक दलों का दायित्व बनता है, सभी उम्मीदवारों का दायित्व बनता है कि हम इलेक्शन कमीशन का आदर करें।
हमारा सरकार कितना तक काम कर पाया, कितना तक काम नहीं कर पाया, इसका बारे में चर्चा हो सकता है, इसमें मेरे को कोई एतराज नहीं है। लेकिन आज कौन बात पे चर्चा हो रहा है? हमारा सरकार क्या काम किया है? ये बात कहने के लिए ऑपोजिशन पार्टी तैयार नहीं है, सीपीएम तैयार नहीं है, कांग्रेस तैयार नहीं है, बीजेपी तैयार नहीं है। खाली ममता को गाली देना उसका एक ही काम है, इसको चुनाव कैंपेन बोला नहीं जाता है।
Well, news coming in from Gujarat, which is on edge now. Curfew has been imposed in Mehsana city after a massive rally of the Patel community demanding reservation and release of their jail leaders turned violent on Sunday. The police fired tear gas shells and lathi charged the agitators who allegedly engaged in stone pelting. Now, a statewide bandh has been called by the Patel group to protest against the police action. And in view of the situation there, security has been beefed up all across the state. Curfew has been imposed in Mehsana in Gujarat after jail bharo agitation of Patel community turned violent on Sunday. The protesters were holding a massive rally demanding reservation and release of their jailed leaders. The mob damaged government properties and torched police vehicles, forcing the security forces to fire tear gas shells and use lathi charge to control the agitators. 5 policemen and 25 protesters were injured in the clashes.
2 प्रॉपर्टी हैं गवर्नमेंट की, एफसीआई के गोडाउन और डिस्ट्रिक्ट इंडस्ट्री सेंटर, उनको जलाने की कोशिश की और उनमें कुछ पार्ट जलाया और ये सब पुलिस ने एक्शन लेके अभी कंट्रोल किया है। 144 सिटी में लागू किया है ताकि शांति रहे और साथ में इंटरनेट को भी बैन किया।
अभी भी जो वराछा विस्तार में थोड़ा डिस्टर्ब करने की जो कोशिश की गई उसमें भी टीयर गैस शेल 4 शेल छोड़े गए हैं और 4 लोगों की अटकायत भी की गई है।
The Patels or Patidar community is a relatively affluent group of land and business owners and make up 14% of the population in Gujarat. The incident brought fears of a revival of the Patel community's quota agitation, which started last year with the demands of reservation in education and government jobs. One of their leaders, Hardik Patel, was arrested on sedition charges in October and has been behind bars since then. On Sunday, violence broke out after demonstrators were stopped on the way to a prison by the police. The demonstrators alleged that they were targeted without any provocation.
ऐसे एक और समाधान की सरकार बात करी है और दूसरे मुंह से ऐसे पुलिस हमारे पर लाठीचार्ज और पाटीदार समाज पर अत्याचार हो रहा है, तो इससे पाटीदार समाज बहुत दुखी है।
In the wake of reports of clashes, Home Minister Rajnath Singh called up Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel to take stock of the situation. The opposition has, however, demanded the Chief Minister's resignation over the incident.
सरकार टोटल फेल गई है गुजरात में और वो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर में तो फेल होगी, लेकिन ये जो गुनहगार एलिमेंट्स हैं उनको सपोर्ट कर रही है।
Following the clashes, Patel groups have called for a bandh all over Gujarat on Monday in protest against police action. Mobile and internet services have been suspended in several cities in order to prevent the spread of rumours. The security has also been stepped up in all major cities. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from Jammu and Kashmir now. Well, Army Chief General Dalbir Singh Suhag took stock of the situation in the Kashmir Valley with the tension prevailing following the Handwara incident. The Army Chief interacted with the Corps commanders and took a first-hand assessment of the prevailing internal security situation. The Army Chief's visit comes as the girl who is at the centre of the Handwara molestation storm recorded her statement before the Chief Judicial Magistrate. In the statement, she is understood to have stood by her earlier statement that she was not molested by any army soldier on Tuesday. The girl, along with her father, was presented before the Chief Judicial Magistrate Handwara last evening and her statement was recorded. Meanwhile, life in most parts of the state began limping back to normalcy after remaining paralysed for 5 days due to strikes and protests. Restrictions continued as a precautionary measure in Handwara and Kupara towns, where 5 persons have been killed since Tuesday. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Chinese media write in saying through this joint patrolling exercise, the US is trying to create a mini NATO for this region.
From India's point of view, we have said that no plan for joint patrolling is under consideration.
US Defense Secretary has made it very clear in his recent speech what they are doing with India as part of the larger strategy towards China.
It all depends on the government's policy as to which ways the geopolitics is driving the foreign policy will actually dictate the defense cooperation between two countries.
Watch experts debate on India-US logistics support agreement in India's world on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back after the break. Now, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj arrived in Russia for the second leg of a two-nation visit. Sushma Swaraj will attend the annual Foreign Ministers meeting of Russia, India and China, or the RIC. On the sidelines of the meeting, Sushma Swaraj is expected to meet her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, during which she is likely to raise the issue of China blocking India's bid at the United Nations to ban Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. She is also expected to have a bilateral meet with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. In the first leg of a two-nation visit, Sushma Swaraj had a wide range of engagements with several top Iranian leaders, including President Hassan Rouhani. Now, Rouhani assured her that Iran can be a reliable partner for India's energy needs. India has been eyeing deeper energy ties with Iran following lifting of nuclear sanction and has already lined up $20 billion as investment in oil and gas as well as in petrochemical and fertilizer sectors in Iran. India is also keen to increase the oil imports from Iran from the current 350,000 barrels.
Iran said it would be happy to participate in the refinery sector in India. On Farzad B, both sides took note of the constructive discussions held during the recent visit to Iran of our Minister of State for Petroleum and Natural Gas. The Indian side welcomed the decision taken by the Iranian side to keep the Farzad B field outside the auction basket. In the context of the economic partnership between India and Iran, both sides discussed the progress on the Chabahar project. Both sides agreed that the commercial contract on Chabahar as well as the modalities for extending the $150 million line of credit for Chabahar port should be signed in the very near future.
Meanwhile, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar on Sunday arrived on his first official visit to China for high-level talks with the top military officials to consolidate ties between the two armed forces of the two countries. Manohar Parrikar will hold talks with the top Chinese officials, including Defence Minister General Chang Wangyang and Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, General Fang Chanlong today. He is also due to call on Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. Later, he would visit China's recently integrated Western Command military headquarters, which has jurisdiction over border with India. The two countries may discuss further modalities of the 2013 Border Defence Cooperation Agreement, which has outlined various measures to address tensions arising out of the aggressive patrolling by both the sides. And the government is planning to roll out special facilities to people staying in India on a long-term visa belonging to minority communities in neighbouring Pakistan. Now, they will soon be allowed to buy property, open bank accounts and get PAN as well as Aadhaar cards. Issuing of driving license, permission to take up self-employment, dispensing with the requirement of personal appearance before the foreigner's registration officer for registration are a few other facilities being planned. Other concessions include reduction in fee for registration as a citizen of India from 15,000 rupees to 100 rupees. Though the exact number of minority refugees from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan living in India is not known, according to rough official estimates, there are around 2 lakh such people, mostly Hindus and Sikhs. There are around 400 Pakistani Hindu refugee settlements in cities like Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, Jaipur, etc. Let's get to some international news now. In the death toll from Ecuador's biggest earthquake in decades soared to at least 246 as rescuers are using tractors and bare hands, and they are hunting desperately for survivors in shattered coastal towns. The 7.8 magnitude quake struck off the Pacific coast on Saturday. Now, neighboring countries, Colombia, Spain, Venezuela, Chile are also sending in aid to help with the worst earthquake to hit that country in a decade.
The death toll in the earthquake that hit Ecuador has gone up to 246. More than 2,500 people have also been reportedly injured. The 7.8 magnitude quake struck off the Pacific coast on Saturday, collapsing houses and knocking out power. People left their homes and wandered around, some sleeping on the streets. Coastal areas nearest to the epicenter were worst affected, especially Pedernales, where some 163 aftershocks have reportedly occurred. More than 10,000 troops and 3,500 police have been deployed in the affected areas as rescue teams search desperately through rubble for survivors of the country's most powerful earthquake in decades.
Yo estaba en Atacama haciendo compra, estaba mi hija que casi la atrapa. El esposo la cogió y la sacó y luego que salieron, entonces ahí se vino la casa.
President Rafael Correa rushed home from a trip to Italy to supervise the emergency. He declared a state of emergency in 6 provinces and said the priority was finding survivors, while Vice President Jorge Glass said that the number of casualties is expected to go further. The governments of Colombia, Chile, Spain and Mexico are sending help for rescue efforts. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos contributed 65 search and rescue experts. Speaking at the CATM military base in Bogota, Santos sent his condolences to the neighboring country. The Ecuadorian Red Cross mobilized more than 800 volunteers and staff, and medical charity Medicine Sans Frontiers said it was sending a team from Colombia.
Estamos con todo el contingente humano y con todos los recursos disponibles y coordinando también la ayuda internacional que llegará en las próximas horas.
Solidaridad con el pueblo ecuatoriano, con sus autoridades. Los colombianos los estamos acompañando en este momento de angustia, de dolor.
The Ecuadorian government has called it the worst quake in the country since 1979, where 600 people were killed and 20,000 injured. The Ecuadorian quake follows two large and deadly quakes that struck Japan since Thursday. Both countries are located on the seismically active ring of fire that circles the Pacific. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, another country that has been hit by earthquake, Japan is struggling to restore services in the southwestern island of Kyushu after it was hit by two powerful earthquakes on Saturday. At least 11 people are still missing following the quakes, which killed 41 people and wounded hundreds of others. The search for survivors is still on as the rescue workers are combing through collapsed buildings amid aftershocks and the escalating risk of landslides due to rainfall overnight. A Saturday 7.3 magnitude quake struck close to the city of Kumamoto, which had been hit by a 6.4 magnitude quake on Thursday night as well. Now, both the quakes were shallow, causing huge damage to roads, bridges and tunnels. Big landslides cut off also remote mountain villages. Some 1,000 buildings have reportedly been damaged and at least 90 have been destroyed. About 2,000 people were treated for injuries and nearly 200 remain in serious condition. Now, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced more troops to help in the rescue effort and that the US military would also provide air transportation. The Japanese Meteorological Authority has cautioned local residents to be vigilant over possible strong aftershocks as well as rain-triggered landslides in the coming days.
1回目の時はですね、わーって思うぐらいでしたけど、2回目の姿からしてもう本当に家に入るのすらなんか恐怖感があって、
もう品物自体がもう物流の方も止まってる状態で、もう品物がもう全部もう地震でですね、もう全部倒れてしまって、もう売れるっていうかもう持ってこれるのがこれだけで、初めの方でもう全部だいぶタダでっていうかもう皆様にですねお配りしたんですよ。でもあと残ってるやつがこのぐらいですよね。
The big developing story coming in from Brazil, where the lawmakers have authorized impeachment proceedings against President Dilma Rousseff. The decision plunges Latin America's biggest country into profound political crisis. Now, opposition deputies in the lower house of Congress needed 342 of the 513 votes, or a two-third majority, to send Rousseff to the Senate, which will now decide whether to open a trial. They got there after 5 hours of voting. Now, with the cheering erupted from the opposition at the 342nd vote, countered by furious jeering from Rousseff's allies in snapshot of the radical and bitter mood-consuming Brazil just 4 months before Rio de Janeiro hosts the Olympics. Now, outside Congress, where tens of thousands of people were watching giant TV screens, the split was echoed on a mass scale, with the opposition supporters partying and Rousseff loyalists in despair. If, as many expect, the Senate goes on to impeach the president, Vice President Michel Temer, who abandoned Rousseff to become a key opponent, will assume power. But opposition celebrations could be short-lived because Temer would inherit a country wallowing in its deepest recession in decades and a dysfunctional political scene where Rousseff's Workers' Party has vowed revenge. Let's get you some more global news now. Here is the World Wrap. A meeting of the world's leading oil exporters to discuss capping production has ended without an agreement. After hours of talks in Qatar, the country said that the oil producers needed more time Most members of the OPEC producers group plus other oil exporters, including Russia, attended the talks. They wanted a deal that would freeze output and also stem the plunge in crude prices over the past 18 months. Iran did not attend that meeting. Meanwhile, Iran displayed parts of its new Russian-made air defense system during its Army Day celebrations. S-300 missile tubes and radar equipment drove past a podium where Iranian President Hassan Rouhani was standing. Iran insists the system is necessary to defend itself, but the US and Israel have criticized the sale. The controversial contract got the go-ahead after lifting of international sanctions on Iran. The Syrian opposition's chief negotiator, Mohammad Al-Aoush, has insisted there could be no compromise on Bashar al-Assad's ouster. He also called for renewed attacks on regime forces despite a truce. The truce between Syria's government and non-jihadist rebel groups had seen violence drop since it came into force on 27th of February. But a recent surge of fighting in the northern province of Aleppo has threatened to derail both the peace deal as well as the talks in Switzerland. Police say a British Airways flight from Geneva hit an object believed to be a drone while on approach to London's Heathrow Airport. An investigation has been launched, though the plane landed safely and was cleared for its next flight. The Airbus A320 was carrying 132 passengers and 5 crew members. No arrests have been made so far. At least 7,000 people took to the streets of Brussels in a march against terror and hate. Now, heading the processions were some of those who were caught up in the suicide bomb attacks on Belgium's airport and metro station that killed 32 people. The attacks in Brussels were claimed by the Islamic State militant group, which also said that it was behind the gun and bomb attacks in Paris on 13th of November that killed 130 people. And in some good news coming in from sports, well, gymnast Deepa Karmakar made the nation proud by becoming the first Indian gymnast ever to secure an Olympic berth. The 22-year-old could not clinch an Olympic berth in the World Championships in November last year as she finished outside the podium. But this time around, Deepa exhibited a strong show, finishing with a total of 52.698 points at the final qualifier and the Olympic test event. Deepa earlier had created history by becoming the first Indian woman gymnast to win a medal in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014 by clinching the bronze medal. Well, on that happy note, time to end this news bulletin. Thanks so much for watching.